Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Weekly Wisdom. Now, before we jump in, I have an exciting announcement. Y'all know I've been asking for YouTube subscribers to get up to 100 subscribers. Well, we're getting close. So now we're going to make it a little interesting. The 100th subscriber that I have to YouTube will get an autographed copy of Lee Cockrell's Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney. Now, if you're not familiar with Lee, Lee is the retired executive vice president of operations for all of Walt Disney World. He was second in command. And there is a lot of things, if you've been to Disney since the early 2000s, you've probably enjoyed some of the practices that he has put into place. So 100th subscriber gets an autographed copy of Creating Magic. Okay, so let's jump in. Now, for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about leadership lessons that I learned from my parents in honor of Father's Day. So we are on week 3, and the lesson this week was one that I learned in a way that I'm pretty sure was kind of awkward for my dad. So the lesson is ask, don't assume. You see, in 8th grade, I was struggling with PE. Now, I've never told my dad this, but the reason why I was struggling with PE is just because I was clumsy and didn't like moving, because whenever I did, random awkward things would happen. And so my dad one day sat down and he asked me, he says, "Honey, I want to talk about your grade in PE. I say, "Yes, sir." And he says, "You're not doing so well." I say, "Yes, sir." And I knew I was about to get in trouble. And he says, "Are you embarrassed to get changed with all of the other girls? Is that why you're not doing well with PE?" And again, it came down to, I wasn't embarrassed about changing. I was embarrassed about physical activity at all. But that lesson that he taught me was ask discovery questions. Don't assume that you know the motives behind what somebody is doing. And again, can you imagine as a dad having that question with like a 12 or 13-year-old girl? I'm sure it was crazy awkward for him. Now, this is really important if you go into a coaching conversation with an employee. How many times have you gone in for a coaching conversation where you assume that you know the outcome? They're going to get disciplined. And they say or do something that kind of stops you and you're like, "Oh, okay, wasn't ready for that." So this is where you go into any coaching conversation that you go into, you need to go into with an open mind and an open heart. You can give your employees the benefit of the doubt. That does not make you a bad leader. In fact, it will make you a great leader. Now, you don't want to do it if somebody is missing work and they're on the 10th time that their grandmother has passed away, then maybe you want to start asking questions. But when it's the first time, give your employees the benefit of the doubt. Go in, ask the questions behind what somebody is doing. And whenever you have that employee, because you know we all have that employee, that drives you a little bonkers. A tip that I would do, so I would ask the question instead of assuming, is I would ask myself, is there any reason why they could be doing the behavior other than what I think the reason is? So say I have somebody who's always late. My first assumption is that they're lazy or they just don't care about their job. Could the reason be that they're having to ride public transportation because their car broke down and they really need this job to be able to pay it off? You see, if I go into the conversation with a little bit more empathy and compassion, the employee is more likely to open up. So remember, this week, week 3, ask. Don't assume you know the answer. It's okay to give your employees the benefit of the doubt. They will appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget, leave in the comments what you have learned. And if you don't mind, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, lucky number 100 will get the autographed book. And can't wait to see you next week. Remember, you got this. Have a great week.